But surprisingly, you are spending 16% of your budget on overtime. And one asks themselves, what overtime? That is 16% of expenditure when the repairs are only 2%. So what is it which function or jobs that they perform for this overtime? And who creates this overtime for what? As we speak, the sewer is spilling all over Mangaung, non-stop. No repairs, but there are people being paid money to stop that sewer. Now we get to remuneration. Your remuneration is way above the norm, at 53%. We're going to need to know who is being paid this 53%. There is too much gaps and holes in the explanation we're getting. It makes absolutely no sense. As much as the city manager requested that he do his presentation, but you still do not expand or explain the findings of the AG. Number one, the AG has a serious concern on your financial planning and performance. You are spending only 8%, which is below norm, on the capital expenditure. You are spending 2% below norm again on maintenance and repairs. But surprisingly, you are spending 16% of your budget on overtime. And one asks themselves, what overtime? That is 16% of expenditure when the repairs are only 2%. So what is it which function or jobs that they perform for this overtime? And who creates this overtime for what? Because if repairs are 2% and we pay 16% just on overtime, we're paying for what? What is it that they are doing with what? And that's the question you were supposed to have answered. And this question requires you not to just say, no, the reason for overtime is because of this and that. We need it detailed. Because we paid 16%. For month one, we paid so much money. For which functions where? Because as we speak, the sewer is spilling all over Mangaung, non-stop. No repairs, but there are people being paid money to stop that sewer. I'll give you addresses where the sewer is spilling everywhere in Mangaung, which you know. Yet we have people getting paid 16% of the budget on overtime alone. Now we get to remuneration. Your remuneration is way above the norm, at 53%. Chair, we asked in the last meeting, which I'm sure the colleagues did watch us when we were engaging with AG, to prepare for today, that we be presented with the organogram of the municipality and the positions thereof that are adopted by the municipality. Now, we're going to need to know who is being paid this 53%. What levels? And we must get accountability from the mayor's office. How many staff members are in your office and how many senior managers paid for what? Are they in the organogram? City manager. You created 4 positions in your office. You must account for them. With duplication, one of those positions, you created a revenue specialist. Begs the question, what does the CFO do? And his staff managers. You created service delivery specialist. There's corporate. Under which mandate and who adopted that? You created a project manager in your office. This is an SCM function. Where was that adopted? You created manager service delivery, who is a regional executive member of the ANC structure. And you know what the law says about leaders that become staff members in senior positions. Not only that, there's other positions, I'll give them to you when I page over now. Then, there is cost containment regulation, and you know a group called, I think it's something about 7, in the Mangaung 7. That's an NGO, a civil society group that is fighting for the rights of the people of Mangaung. It has submitted 2 complaints, one to the Hawks, on a tender which was given to 7 companies. You are just giving us not even high level, no information, nothing whatsoever, on tenders that the AG is complaining about. There is a tender that was given to 7 companies which the Hawks is investigating. They have since arrested 2 of those company owners. But those companies are still operating in Mangaung. The tender is under investigation with 2 people already arrested. Tender not stopped. Again, the Mangaung 7 sent a complaint to Public Protector about a study tour that went to Indonesia. It's part of the financial planning and performance because Treasury has a clear cost containment regulation which says under MFMA, I think it's 12(2)C of that Gazette of 2019. It says not more than 3 officials or people can go to a study tour. If that is the case, it must be approved by Treasury. You took more than 8 people on a study tour to Indonesia under financial recovery plan. Under financial recovery plan, you took 8 people to Indonesia to do what? How much was that study tour? And what are the results of that study tour? And why did you breach the Treasury regulations doing that? That was the city manager with 8 other people that went to that study tour in full breach of the Treasury regulations. And that we need a clear detail, Chair. I don't want an explanation that's not going. We need a clear detail on all the questions that I've asked. I'll stop there for now.
I will be responding to the questions that relate to the capital expenditure of 8%, the repairs and maintenance, the overtime expenditure, and employee cost above the norm. And probably I will touch as well on the solid waste tender that you have raised that has, it's a matter under investigation. On the budget-related matters, members of this committee, the city did observe the under-allocations of funds to most critical areas in the budget. The 8% that we're referring to, when you're looking at the budget of the city for the last 3 years, up to 2024-2025, the contribution from the city's own coffers into the capital budget has always been between 8% and 10%. And we have taken, and I think when you're looking at the state of the budget at the time, it was informed really by the fact that for those years, the city was struggling financially. The reserves at the end of the year were inadequate to ensure sufficient contribution. But with them, when we started the budget process for 2025-2026, which is the current financial year that is ending now, in the adjustment budget of February 2025, we started to make changes that will deal with these issues to ensure that progressively we put our money where it matters most. And I don't want to go into the details, but when looking at the tabled budget for 2026-2027 MTREF, there are significant changes. The city's contribution to the capital is currently projected at 25%, meaning the funding ratio of your capex for 26-27 MTREF and the outer 2 years, we are hovering between a ratio of 25:75, meaning the grants are 75% of the total funds are available to capex, which is an improvement from where we're coming from of 8% against 92%, which showed a great deal of grant dependency. So our budget processes are looking into these things and see how best can we deal with them as the financial position and performance of the city is improving. So in a nutshell, the history is there, but look at the adjustment budget of February 2025, you look at the approved budget for 25-26, you look at the tabled budget for 26-27, those changes are evident. On the maintenance, yes, for many years in Mangaung, maintenance allocation was between 1 to 2% of the total operational budget. For 26-27, that has been improved. We are currently sitting at 11% allocation to maintenance in the 26-27 MTREF, and that budget has been tabled to council. We are actually in the process of public participation. So strategically and intentionally so, we looked at where we come from. We had to make strides and see how best can we improve. Because the truth of the matter is we are an old city, sitting with aged infrastructure. I actually say it's not aging, it has aged. And we need to focus on refurbishment, upgrading, and investment in new infrastructure. At the same time, we need to up how much we allocate to maintenance to ensure that the service delivery continues in Mangaung. Therefore, the baseline is quite clear and correct as reported by aging. But when you're looking at the adjustment budgets that I'm talking about, February 2025, February 2026, and the tabled budget for 26-27, there are changes that are significant, that are evident from what has been reported as the truth based on the performance, actual performance as audited by aging. I'm going to go to the employee costs. Members of Parliament, I looked at the report of aging. First and foremost, there are ways of measuring this employee cost. And yes, they are saying our spending is currently sitting at 53%. But if you are looking at the employee cost budget in relation to the total budget of the municipality, when it is approved, we are sitting at 25%. Our current budget for 2025-2026 is 11.6 billion, and the employee cost budget in the 11.6 is currently 2.6 billion. That is 25% of the total operating budget. But these percentages changes.
Sorry, can you just help me explain how you get from 53 to 25 again? What is the difference?
Yes, I'm saying you.
So just speak a bit slower.
Yes, you have the approved budget. The total operational budget of Mangaung is 11.6 billion for 2025-2026, and the employee cost allocated is 2.6 billion.
Sorry, okay, so just so that we're on the same page, remember the AG is reporting on
the actuals,
on the previous, on the actual. So for now, leave 25-26. You will come again for that.
Okay.
We need to deal with the period under review.
Okay. Now we have the figures of when you're looking at the 2024-2025, which is the audited financial year. The budget of the city was 10.6 billion, and the employee cost in relation to 10.6 billion was 2.4 billion. Again, that percentage remains at 25%. Now, when you're looking at your cash flow statement, that's where we agree with the AG to say our cash flow for 2024-2025, total cash collected was 5.6 billion, and against a 2.3 billion actual expenditure in employee cost. Now, when the ratio gets worse, when you take out the conditional grants, it pushes actually your employee cost actuals against the cash receipted by the municipality to about 61%. Now, it is impacting on the sustainability of the municipality to say most of the cash you're collecting goes to employee cost and the payment of the suppliers and creditors. And I think I just wanted to clarify that Indeed, on the cash flow basis, the percentage is high. But on the allocation side, looking at MFMA Circular 71, we are maintaining the ratios. We are quite honest with our collection rate as a city, which currently is hovering between 73% and 79%, which is impacting on the cash flow. But our budget assumptions in that space are in relation. That's why when you're looking at the cash balances at the end of the year, the city closed the financial year with over R1 billion cash in the bank. So I'm giving you the perspective that employee cost in relation to budget, we are in line with your norms and standards. But looking at the cash side of the business, we are indeed paying more on salaries compared to what is generated as a result of the collection rate that is below the norm of 95%. And we are dealing with these issues. And I think we are having a strategy on how to fast track our collections. We are working on collaboration with Centlec on how to utilize the electricity as one of the mechanisms for collection, just to ensure that we reach the required minimum of 85%. And in terms of the norms and standard, the 95% that Treasury is requiring. I covered that, so we agree with Auditor General. We understand where it comes from, and the plans in place is you either reduce your expenditure or you improve on your revenue collection. Now, in as far as maintenance, the overtime you referred to, that the city has spent 16% on overtime compared to the percentage spending in relation to maintenance. Again, the Chair, we are in agreement with you, but we want to further expatiate where is the overtime coming from, because I think the whole issue is if your maintenance budget is low, what are these people doing? The city's maintenance is actually implemented by, in the main, 80% of our maintenance is done by contractors that are employed by the municipality through our tender system. So in other words, we have capacity issues to a point where 80% is outsourced. The major overtime of Mangaung comes, number one, when you're looking at the working hours of the city, which is one of the recommendations that AGSA has made, that you've got departments that are working Saturday. And in terms of the employment contracts, those people are hired to work Monday to Friday. The recommendation is therefore that change the employment conditions of these departments to ensure that the working hours are aligned with the realities on the ground, that you need to provide these services Monday to Saturday, and only your Sunday becomes an overtime. Your solid waste management unit is one of the largest contributors in overtime, due to the fact that employment contract says Monday to Friday, but the schedule they are working on is saying Monday to Saturday, which makes every Saturday in the year for those units overtime. And that is happening across the board, because in the public safety department, you've got those traffic officers that need to do law enforcement and other activities, which are also working Monday to Friday. And yet on Saturday and Sunday, you can't let your guard down in as far as ensuring that there is compliance with Road Act. And therefore, these are contributing. But we are in the process with LLF to review these working conditions and ensure that once we change the employment contracts, it will impact on the overtime that is worked. So I think I have given as much as I could in as far as those items, I don't know, from corporate services. On the tender issue, yes, indeed, you are right, Chair, with regards to the tender. The city awarded a tender for trade waste collection. And from where we were seated, we had no issues. From the conversation we held with Hawks, there was a whistleblower on the matter who reported fraud and corruption in relation to the letters of proof of work done by some of the contractors, and a possible collusion, because when they inspected the letters they submitted, they found some inconsistencies and sharing of information. Now we sat with the Hawks and asked them a question. You have now done these arrest of the 2 of the 7 contractors. What is your proposal that the city should be doing? Do we terminate the contract? Do we put it on hold until the outcome of your investigation to confirm whether there was indeed fraud and corruption as alleged? The response we gotten from them was that we are still busy with the investigation, and you stopping this contract may impact on service delivery in Mangaung. We haven't gotten further guidance from their side, and this contract is now actually expiring on the 30th of June. We are actually going out on tender for a replacement contract of that tender, with this matter still pending in courts. So we agree with you that maybe we should have terminated pending the outcome of this case. But I think operating from the principle of investigation must unfold, the people must be found guilty of having colluded, then we can probably approach the court for the loss of money by the city to people who obtained a contract fraudulently. But the advice we gotten from Hawks was not explicit that the contract should be put on hold or terminated pending the outcome. All I know is that to date, those contractors are all working and the contract is expiring, and that we are already out on tender for the replacement contract that is set to start as early as 1st of July 2026. Thank you so much, CM.
As I come in, Chair, as I came in as the city manager, I think I must just touch on what HOD Duma touched on. We had a top-heavy structure, Chair, with no clear allocation of roles. In fact, we had gaps in critical positions. I think that's what also drove our underspending. And as I came in, Chair, I needed people that will guide me in terms of responding to issues without bloating the structure. I applied Regulation 30 of Municipal Staff Regulations, and I identified, I think, these issues that are emerging now that are also part of the AG's report. That's why I also decided to appoint these specialists in. The city has a serious under-collection of revenue, if I may say so. But this under-collection of revenue needed to be characterized. You find officials there who have been doing this, but seriously under-collecting. So I needed someone that will guide me in terms of what corners can we take in terms of collecting revenue. We have not yet reached the level that we would want to reach, but in terms of the processes, now we've got a revenue collection war room that deals with pockets of revenue for the city. So the specialist is entirely responsible to guiding me, not interfering with the role of the CFO as such, but to guide me in terms of strategy as the city manager. Remember, we got a top-heavy structure with no relevant officials. I think the CFO will also attest. There were not really many officials dealing with revenue. So I needed, at the high level, to provide direction with regard to revenue. Issues of service delivery, I appointed the service delivery specialist because one of the key issues in relation to the financial recovery plan was service delivery. With the service delivery specialist, we guided the departments also in terms of how we can work with limited resources. HOD Masbing has already touched 2 or 3 years ago to attend to sewer spillage. I think the statement that we have made, it would take forever at times. I think if your statement was made 2 years ago that there is sewer running all over the city, it would be a statement of fact. But currently, Chair, in 48 hours, at most, we are able to respond to sewer spillages in Mangaung. And I must just add also there is infrastructure refurbishment also. I think the biggest issue of Mangaung sewer is lied with the issue of old or dead infrastructure. So with the guidances, we are able to now develop norms and standards. I'm able to say you can be able to respond to this in 24 hours based on the facts gathered by my specialist. I've also got an IT specialist who's helping us with automation. The city is moving very fast with automation. The city was largely a paper-based city. So I appointed someone to say we can save resources by automating. This person brought that experience, and we are moving as the city with regard to automation. But remember, these are fixed-term contracts to help enhance our response on FRP issues. I think we'll share the issue of the structure. The Office of City Manager is not so bloated. I've only appointed those specialists and support staff. And as I've said, I think we still have about 3-4 positions that are vacant in the Office of the City Manager. I did not find them critical. In fact, we abolished an HOD position in the office. There was an HOD position which was going to be high remuneration. There was also the project management office HOD level, which was supposed to be also at high level. So we abolished those high level positions in favor of positions that will give us practical resolutions to the current problems. There's no need to have an HOD where I can just have a manager or a general manager. Yes, we have a project management office which serves mainly, I think in terms of the presentation that I've made, it serves mainly to coordinate our response or our effort, mainly on projects. The catalytic projects that cut across all the departments are coordinated by the PMO. The PMO tracks, because you cannot have the technical department tracking itself. The PMO tracks processes or projects, but also the PMO, when it's fully fleshed, we are anticipating to capacitate it to ensure that as we implement projects, there is value for money. Essentially, we are saying that there'll also be monitoring whether what we have spent on a project is what the project is worth. So it has some technical capacity to just monitor and update the executive management to say that we have spent 20 million here, but the project is worth 5 million. Just making an example. So the PMO deals with that. Essentially, it's a seriously high-level monitoring office in the Office of the City Manager. So we have strengthened the Office of the City Manager to enable the City Manager to take account and to monitor work that is being done. I've spoken about automation.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I'm really worried about our time because
Okay.
and I'm now going to have to donate my own time to this. So
Nice question.
yeah, I'll come back to you, Honourable Member, at the end if we have time. No, it's you, Mzal. Yeah, sorry, Honourable Esa.
Chair, this is exactly what I raised with the committee earlier on. This is exactly the problem. Because had we have been given information, there is too much gaps and holes in the explanation we're getting. It makes absolutely no sense. And I can't come back and interrogate that. And that's exactly the problem we're going to have. We're going to have a situation where we're told today Mangaung came to account and it accounted. Tick box were done. No. There's a lot of information that makes no sense to me out of the answers. Had we have been given that information up front in response to what the AG have raised and found in your municipality, we would have taken it from where we are supposed to be. Now we must interrogate to get the answers that answers the AG. And now we must move on. I don't agree, Chair. Unless you are saying we are going to get this broken down and Mangaung is coming back, because today this is not accountability.
No, I've already said so, Honourable Member, right in my introduction. That will get we'll speak to them again. Honourable Isaac.
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry.
My apologies, Honourable Isaac. I would like to echo the sentiments of Honourable Member Chair. The answers that we're currently getting are unsatisfactory at all.
Okay.